Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well and having a great Tuesday evening. Tonight we're going to be talking about this area in the Caribbean, which is Invest 99L, and this will be the main topic for today's video. So I will have chapters up in the video so y'all can skip to any point y'all want to see. That'll include the tropics, but again, I won't be talking about the severe weather threat, but I will just be talking about this area in the Caribbean, which is once again Invest 99L as of the latest 6:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time update from today. So looking at the latest, well, actually first we'll go to the 2-day outlook here. And so again, first looking at the latest 2-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center, and this is the latest 6:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time update. We do have this area in the Caribbean that has a 70% chance of developing within the next 2 days, and that is again for the 2-day outlook. And this has increased just really overnight, you could say, and confidence has increased with a system potentially forming down here into the Caribbean. And so we'll be discussing that with the weather models in just a moment. So we'll go to the 7-day outlook again. And so before I go any further, this will be updated in probably about an hour from when I'm recording this video. So this information might be just a little bit old. So just go to the National Hurricane Center and you can find the latest outlooks from there to get the latest updated information. So I do apologize for that. But going back to this here, again, as of the latest 6:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time update from today, this has a 90% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 7 days. So confidence is quite high for this developing into something, and many models show a storm getting going out of this, possibly a hurricane as well, and we'll be breaking that down in just one moment. So now looking at the weather models, and again looking down at this area down here into the Caribbean, and this is the latest 0Z GFS, and it is still loading a little bit, so we'll go to about 200 hours out, so that's about where it goes right now, and we'll see the run there. But if we go ahead and go to speed this up a little bit here and go to Thursday, you have a development of a tropical cyclone, probably a tropical storm, showing up on the GFS by sometime Thursday, maybe Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon. And then the GFS has this storm rapidly intensifying and eventually gets that all the way down to a 922, I believe, low pressure. Yes, a 922 millibar low pressure by Sunday, and that would be a almost a Category 5 hurricane. And I really do not hope this happens. But again, that is just what the GFS shows. It just shows a rapid intensification episode, pretty much, of a storm down here in the Caribbean. I mean, the environment is favorable for development, so that's definitely one thing with the sea surface temperatures being warm. But again, it's just something we'll have to watch. And so going forward with this would have basically this storm making a landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula sometime early next week. But again, it's just getting kind of far out, and we're gonna have to kind of just take everything with a grain of salt and not pay attention to the exact track of the storm. But I would not take any areas if we go back here, I would not take any areas to the east or to the west of this out of the question, especially into the western Gulf of Mexico and even into Cuba as well. But again, still continuing on the GFS, that would have that heading towards Florida and eventually making a potential landfall in Florida, maybe as a Cat 1 or Cat 2 hurricane. But again, that is just very far out, and we can't really rely on that too much at this time. So we're going to go back here and go back to the start, and then we're going to look at the European, and then we're going to look at the Icon as well as the Canadian just a little bit. But again, looking at the European model, and first starting out with the 18Z run here, has that developing a kind of a low pressure sometime on Thursday, and then that intensifies into Friday. And this doesn't go all the way out to where we need it to go, but we'll still use it. So that would have that still intensifying quite a bit and have that all the way to 947 millibar storm, and that would be basically a strong Category 3 hurricane by that point, heading towards the Yucatan Peninsula sometime early next week. And that is the 18Z run, so it does not go out any further than that. So we'll go to the 12Z run. 12Z run is completely different, only has a 991 millibar storm there, and with the next run, complete difference there. Basically over a 40 millibar difference there. So we'll have to watch these trends for sure. It's kind of hopped on board with the GFS as far as that goes, but again, just shows a pretty different solution just from a one run from this model, excuse me. So again, looking on the 12Z European, that would have that hitting the kind of the Yucatan Peninsula and then going up into the Gulf of Mexico, intensifying just a little bit again, and then hitting Florida. Florida definitely needs to keep their watch up for a potential system. But again, other areas in the Gulf of Mexico need to watch. I would again say some areas of the western Gulf of Mexico, but mainly the eastern Gulf of Mexico, because we are going to have it is forecasted for a potent trough actually to come through into the central U.S. So that'll help to pull this system to the east, but that has bad news for Florida, as that would kind of pull it to the east and hit Florida on the western side, where it has already been hit 2 times already this year. If I'm right about that, it should be 2 times by Milton and Helene already. So that is definitely not good for Florida. But again, it is far out, so I'm not saying there is going to be a landfall in Florida, but that would be a bad case. That'd be a worst case scenario for it to hit western Florida, the western peninsula of Florida, that is. So again, that is the European weather model. And then going back to the start of the run again, looking at the Canadian weather model here, and then looking at the icon in just a second. The Canadian I don't really love looking at the Canadian model, but again, it is guidance. So it does not have really much developing there, and then it kind of gets a low pressure developed early next week, not even much at all, and then finally gets a low pressure into the Gulf and stays at a 1003 millibar low pressure. So at this point, I really don't think the Canadian model will happen. If it does, that would be a miracle, and that would be great for sure if that would happen, but I just don't see that happening at all. I see this system rapidly intensifying in the Gulf of Mexico. Not the Gulf of Mexico, excuse me, the Caribbean, not the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean. I apologize for that. And so we go to the icon weather model now, and so again, looking at Invest 99L, and looking at in the Caribbean, not the Gulf of Mexico, that has that kind of meandering around, and then eventually gets a low pressure developed. Let me go back here. Gets a low pressure kind of developed Thursday. Same with the other models, and has that intensifying quite a bit, and it goes down all the way into a 979 to a 977 millibar low pressure on this coming Sunday, and then has that kind of just meandering around here in the Caribbean, and then makes a basically a final landfall, not a final landfall, but makes its first landfall, sometime maybe early next week as a tropical storm or a low-end hurricane. And so that will continue on to the Gulf of Mexico, and then head on and maybe potentially hit Florida, possibly the Panhandle of Florida. So as you can see with all these weather models, there is really not anywhere in the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico that is out of the question of receiving some sort of tropical system, especially the peninsula of Florida. So again, we'll have to continue to monitor these trends over the next several days. And lastly, we'll look at the EPS and GEFS ensembles. It's not really too good to look at these right now because we know there's probably going to be a system forming. But as you can see, that area on the EPS ensembles has spread quite a bit, actually, even though it's a little bit closer in the forecast range. And so you have members all the way out here to the kind of into the Eastern Caribbean, into the Western Caribbean, and it's just a big difference even from the 12Z run here. Again, going from the 12Z to 18Z run, you've got a wide spread of members out here and strong members as well. So again, there's just a lot to continue to watch and monitor over the next several days, because we have just a lot to kind of digest with this. And so one thing for sure is the strength of the system, how quickly it's able to intensify in the Caribbean will determine, or not determine, but it will kind of influence where the system might go and how it's influenced by a trough eventually. But I could see a stronger system making a northward turn just a little bit quicker than a system that is a little bit weaker and has a higher or a weaker low pressure compared to a strong low pressure that might kind of make its own path, so to speak, towards the Gulf of Mexico potentially. And then finally, looking at the GEFS ensembles here, same scenario here, widespread of members here, but most of them have that going to the northwest or northward, really. There, and we'll look at the 18Z just real quick. Same thing with here, a wide spread of members still, and that would have that again kind of going northward and turning into Cuba and Florida. So again, there's not a lot we can really do right now except for just stay up to date with the weather models, and hopefully by tomorrow we can get some hurricane models in, because again, we don't have any yet because this system isn't named yet, and I don't think it is Invest 99L, but it has not received a name out of the the storm list for the 2024 season. So once it does receive a name, we should be able to access these hurricane models and look a little bit closer on what might could happen with the system in the Caribbean. But again, that'll be it for the tropics for tonight. That's going to be it for tonight's video. Again, I really do appreciate all of y'all watching, and I do appreciate all the support. But if y'all have any suggestions, feel free to leave that in the comments. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If you can like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. But that'll really be about it for this video, and I may try to get another video out sometime, maybe this week, but I probably won't have another video out until late this week, maybe not until possibly this weekend. I may have another short video out, but it just kind of depends, because I've just been pretty busy with school and I'm not been able to do these videos to the point where I can fully get in depth with them and not feel rushed, so, and not kind of make it boring as well. So that's pretty much that. But again, I really do appreciate all of y'all watching, and I will see y'all in the next video, and I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's Tuesday night or Wednesday.